Oh, I'm pretty sure that the Phantasmagorium is proud to present Money, Murders, and Minnesota, a retrospective and review of all the things Fargo. I no longer think that Peggy is my spirit animal. I love Lou and flashbacks to the future, unexplainable happenings. Oh, geez, I love this show, don't you know? I am very, very excited. The award winning Coen Brothers executive produced and Noah Hawley run FX series of Fargo is what we are here for. So let's go. Kat is here. I'm Scotty R37. And Steve is going to be there with a suit of armor. It is good to see you, Catherine. How are you doing? Are things on the up
They
and
are.
up?
Yes, they
Good.
are.
I am absolutely delighted. This is our last Fargo.
Well, until season 6.
Well, yeah, I know. I can't wait. Who will be in that?
A lot of hints as to where they could go.
Well,
One of,
I want more Mike Milligan. I demand Milligan.
and Moses Tripoli, more there too.
Yes. Oh, Moses Tripoli. Yes, absolutely. This is an incredible episode. And before I get all melancholic and we do our whole series review, Sitch, why don't we talk about the episodes at hand? This is incredible. I sent you a message right after I watched episode 9 of season 2 of Fargo. And I said, this is one of the best episodes of television that I've seen in the last 10 years. And you said, this is the second time that you've told me about that. And they've both been episodes of Fargo. So what was the first one that I said this was the best? Is
Season
that the
3,
one with the
it
robot?
was season 3, episode 8. Who rules the land of denial? When Yuri and Mimo and Golem flip the prison bus, and Nikki and Mr. Wrench take off into the woods.
Yes,
And then
that was
Emmett getting haunted by her trolling him with hints of his brother, and Cy getting poisoned, with Varga hanging out having Christmas turkey at the house.
It's yes, it is like these are incredible, like incredible cinematographic storytelling television endeavors, and they pay off. Like every season is paid off.
Yes.
So
To an extent, I don't think season 4 had as much of a payoff for me.
you are so down on season 4, but I've been trying to push season 4 up because we're gonna have to do a ranking of seasons.
We will be doing that, yes.
Yes, not yet.
Not yet. We'll finish this review, and then we'll
But
do...
I keep pushing 4 up.
Yes, so this episode begins with the motif that we've seen in other series, where characters from previous seasons are narrating the beginning of the episode. Oh. And this time it's Lester Nygaard, and we see this wall of books.
No, but it's not Lester Nygaard. It is Martin Freeman, but it is not Lester Nygaard.
Well, it's basically the gist of it, though. Kind of like when Malvo narrated the Peter and the Wolf episode of season 3.
I don't think that was Malvo. I think that was specifically Daniel Day-Lewis.
You mean Billy Bob Thornton?
That's him.
No, but whatever. So he's narrating, and we see this wall of books, and one of them says, "The history of true crime in Minnesota," or in the Midwest. The history of true crime in the Midwest. And it's interesting that when the book opens, the page says, "The following events took place in Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota from 1825 to the present." Now, we already know that's partially not true, because Nevada was in season 1 when Malvo went to his handler to find out, hey, who came at me in Fargo? They didn't list Nevada in there. We know that Missouri for St. Louis in season 4 is not included in that. So they're kind of, I don't know. And Hawley has said that he would like to do a season set in the 60s, the 80s, and the 90s. He didn't say anything about 1825 or any time in the 19th century. So it's kind of like a generic blah, like here's this, and maybe they'll visit it at some point. It didn't have Kansas either, which was in season 4. So
yes, everything that you said is factual, but it didn't really contribute to any of my enjoyment of the story, nor did it take away from it.
No, I was just pointing out that it was I picked up at the fact that at the time of season 2, there hadn't been any episodes set in Iowa, and now through season 5, there's been no hint that he has any intention to do a 19th century set show. But I thought it was interesting that they threw that out there at the beginning of this. So maybe he does have an idea in mind. He just hasn't shared it yet.
1875?
No, 1825.
1825. But like, what happened in season 4? That was in the 1800s.
No, that was
that started in the 1800s.
No, it started in the early 1920, around there, and then
I thought it was like 1890 is when I
don't know. But anyway, that's just an observation. So he's narrating and he's talking about Hansi and how he's been the Gerhardt's man, but that there's very little is known about Hansi. No personal history, no tribal history,
no birth certificate.
Nothing. There's nothing about him, and that historians for the world over, would ponder the decisions that Hansi's about to make. And we see that this episode begins with Hansi returning to having fled the cabin after Peggy stabbed him in the shoulder with the scissors. He has fled back to the general store where the clerk is the one who had called the police, and he kills him with a sniper rifle. I don't know why the clerk thought it was a good idea to still be hanging out in there. This crap's been going on, but okay.
Gotta get paid.
So Hansi goes in and he grabs some supplies to help treat his wound, and we see a sticker on the wall that says, "We are not alone with the flying saucer." Always having to remind us of that throughout this season.
Unusual happenings.
Yeah, so he goes in the bathroom, he cleans up the injury, and he takes off. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, the police have detained.
Okay, well, no, put that on a simmer. If you have to say "meanwhile back at the cabin," I want to say hello to the chat. Hello to Lemon Pie, one of our longest supporters of all things Fargo. Thank you for being here. Edge of Time, hail to Edge of Time, and Eugene Bird, one of our benefactors. Kat is decking what t-shirt? Deciding?
Yeah, the t-shirt I'm wearing now, Jason Voorhees says, "I wish it was Friday."
Yes.
Today's Thursday.
Very, very true. And also Cinema Gold. Thanks. Hey. It's good to see you. And Captain Nofinity, no birth certificate, huh? No. Hamzy, no birth certificate. And Taylor Swift, greater than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU, and Doctor Who. It's good to see you with the waving flags. So thank you so much for being here. Anyway, you were saying, meanwhile, back.
So Ed and Peggy have been detained by the local police.
Yes.
Hank and Lou are there, and Lou is trying desperately to convince Ed and Peggy to just get a lawyer, go to the station, don't do anything, because Ed and Peggy have told them that that the Gerhardts didn't want Dodd back, and that they made a deal with Mike to meet at Sioux Falls at the hotel at 8 a.m. the next day. And he's like, "Well, what happened to Dodd?" And he's like, "Well, the Indian came here and killed him and then took off when you guys showed up." And Lou is really frustrated. So they have like a little meeting out back with the police on what to do about this. And the guy who has jurisdiction is kind of an asshole. He's an idiot. He wants to go. He thinks that Minnesota has bungled this whole investigation for bringing it into his state.
But I'm getting the sense that there's a lot of there's like this is a police force that is under the thumb of either the Gerhardts or Kansas City. Like, they say so much. Like, even when they want to take Paganetti into custody, they're like, we can't guarantee their safety because either the Gerhards, who have people in the prison, or Kansas City, who also have people they're gonna die. We can't. And Ted Danson says, so corruption? And it's like an arrangement. It's so like things just kick into gear in this episode. It's so great.
And Lou is just losing his cool, but then Ed and Peggy still won't listen. And so the captain who's in charge just gets pissed off and banishes Lou back to Minnesota. It's like, you're done. You're out of here. Go away. Hank decides that he's going to stay behind Hank being the Ted Danson character. He's going to stay behind and see how things shake out. So Lou leaves and he goes to the general store and he tries to make a phone call back home. Nobody answers, and he discovers the clerk has been murdered. He goes into the bathroom, sees the blood and the evidence, and he goes, and a state trooper pulls up, or another cop. And he's like, yeah, I'm here to escort you out of state. And he's trying to tell him about what just happened inside the general store. And the trooper's just an idiot. And Lou's like, hey, man, the guy who did this, he's racked up a body count of double digits by now. And the dumbass he's talking to is like, well, I don't know about that. And Lou is just beside himself with the stupidity and the lack of interest. And he's like, well, and he's like, well, the boss, my boss, the captain's kind of a scary guy, so I'm just going to do what he told me and not, do anything about this. And Lou just can't believe it. So with no other recourse, he just gets in his car and takes off.
I took it as malice. I know it could have been chalked up to stupidity, but I took it as malice. I thought everybody was under the thumb. I thought it was an organized crime thing.
I said both, probably. No. Meanwhile, back at the house, at Lou's house, Lou's wife has like an episode. She collapses, and she surmises it's side effects from the pills, leading her to believe that.
Oh my God, the pills! Fuck those pills!
Well, it leads her to believe that it's not the placebo. That maybe she did actually get the real pills.
Yes, and unfortunately.
Yeah, and what's her name? The clerk from the butcher shop who's been staying with them still is.
Wait. And we'll get to what's her name. But unfortunately, what are the pills doing, Kat?
Potentially killing her faster than the cancer is.
Yes. It's intended to kill the cancer, but unfortunately, it's actually poison.
Well, that's typically the way it works.
I know. It's such a, I don't know why you got to treat cancer with poison, yo. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
It is, obviously. And then...
well, smarter than me would know.
The clerk from the butcher shop is kind of watching over her still, and she's still reading the Myth of Sisyphus book, and she's talking about how that author seems to think there's no point in life because we're all going to die someday, to which...
Camus!
Said, well, he obviously didn't have a 6-year-old daughter because Molly's lying there in bed. And she's like, that's just the dumbest thing. Nobody with any sense would actually believe any of that. And so that's kind of what they're doing there. And
life is not some old Frenchman's joke.
Yeah, and they've gotten no updates from Lou or Hank.
Yeah. Well, Lou doesn't know about Betsy and her.
No, he doesn't know. That's right, Betsy. That's her name. Yeah, he doesn't know.
That was hanging over me. I thought Betsy was going to die. Spoilers. She doesn't.
Yeah. So he's driving. He gets a phone. He continues driving, and he stops at a gas station. He's filling up, and he gets a call that Peggy's coworker Constance has been found murdered at that motel in Sioux Falls, where the seminar was going to be, having been strangled. And Lou is just kind of beside himself with this, and he decides. Oh no, he wasn't at a gas station. He was a payphone on the side of the road in the middle, like on the highway in the middle of nowhere. And he decides, yeah, and he's like, he's not going to follow instructions. He turns the car around and drives back towards Sioux Falls.
Yeah, kick ass. He's disobeying orders to do Law and Order.
So then we have the key scene where
I love Lou so much. Patrick Wilson does such a good job in this show.
Yes. Then we get to the key scene of the episode, really, when Hansi gets on the payphone and calls Floyd back at the Gerhardt Ranch.
Yeah.
And he falsely reports...
We get Martin Freeman again.
Yes, he falsely reports that Dodd is in somebody's custody, and right when he's about to say who it is, the screen freezes, and Martin Freeman's voice breaks in saying, "Then historians would ponder why Hansi said the next two words," and he says, Mike Milligan. He's the guy who has Dodd, and they're holed up at Sioux Falls, and they're going to have an exchange, and Floyd insists on coming and bringing a posse, and he tells her to bring Bear along with 12 guys. She's like, "You telling me what to do?" And he's like, "No, ma'am, I just can't guarantee your safety is all." She's like, 3 times I've sent men out to do a job, and 3 times it didn't get finished. I'm coming." And so he's like, "Okay, fine, ma'am." And then we get into a little brief montage of sorts where Martin Freeman starts asking questions. He's like, "Historians would ponder, when exactly was it that the Gerhardt's man decided to betray them, and why?" And it's like, was it when he discovered Rye's fate when he was at Ed and Peggy's house in the garage? Was it when he was outside that bar where he saw the vomit pile under the plaque commemorating the death of these civilians? Or was it when he killed Dodd? And they don't really know what this is about. And it's like, we kind of get the idea of what it's about. We've been following Hansi. Like, he was Otto's man, and Otto's dead. And the Kansas City, he can see the way this is going. And he's like you say, like he told Peggy, I'm tired of this life. So he has made his move. And so now a posse consisting of Floyd, Bear, and some other hired guns or Gerhardt people are heading to Sioux Falls.
And later on, we are going to talk about Peg and Eddie and how it was like the only reason it was possible that he wanted to kill them is because he was vulnerable to them just for one moment. And they would be the only people who could reveal his treachery.
I don't think that's it, but we'll get to that when we get there. So,
okay. I love that.
Now we're getting to the Sioux Falls incident where the posse who have Ed and Peggy go to the motel, and they think they're going to set up an ambush for Mike Milligan and the Kansas City people who were supposed to show up for the exchange which Ed said it was supposed to be at 8 a.m., but as we find out, Mike ends up showing up much earlier than that, the night before. But anyway, they're setting up, and they're taking their clothes off, putting on their boxer shorts and their white T-shirts, and they're sitting around having beer and drinking, and they're acting like a bunch of yahoos who aren't taking things seriously. Hank wants to check in on Ed and Peggy, and they got Ben Schmidt watching him, and Ben takes issue with the fact that Hank is there, and he's like, "Did you read him the right?" "Yeah, I read him the rights. It's all done." And he just wants to kick him. It doesn't want anything to do with it. The captain gets in Hank's face and asks him what this is about, and Hank's like, "I was in the war," and he tells him about how he was there at liberating France, and he says Eisenhower gave us an order once, and it was going to get us all killed. And there's a guy who did supersede his orders, and I still send that guy a Christmas card every year. And I love the fact that I'm able to do that. And and he says this to the captain because the captain was like, "You follow orders here. This is a top down." But Hank didn't want to get into arguments about the merits of top down leadership decisions.
Well, and it was, but everybody seems to be talking down to Hank. Like, everyone is sort of dismissing him as being a bumpkin.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. And also, when he steps up, and it's fantastic. But what happens next?
So Luke gets back towards the neighborhood where the motel is, but he decides not to pull into the motel parking lot. He parks a few blocks away. He's starting to walk there, and he sees the Gerhardts drive by, and he sees Floyd in there, and he realizes, oh shit, this is an ambush. And he starts racing through side alleys and streets trying to get there in time. So the Gerhardts show up. Floyd stays at the back of the motel, but with Hansi. And Hansi lies to Bear. And Hansi lies to Bear, who Bear, of course, as we know, made up an excuse as to why Simone couldn't, see Floyd because Floyd wanted to apologize for being mean. Yes. And Bear says, "Don't worry, we'll see them all again, like reunited in heaven or something like that."
Yeah, it was kind of like a heavenly thing. Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of having this conversation. Like, he knew they were about to step into some shit, and he's kind of like reassuring his mom about what's going to happen. So they show up, and Hansi just lies. He says Milligan's on the second floor, Dodd's up there, blah blah blah. And so then the massacre.
Dodd's dead. Dodd's gone, or at least they're lying. The lies.
The massacre begins. The Sioux Falls incident is Bear and the Gerhardt guys ambushing these Yahoo cops, killing everybody. Bear's got the big shotgun, blowing everybody away. Ben Schmidt tries to barricade the door to keep Ed and Peggy and himself safe. And then Hansi, watching all of this go down, suddenly takes his opportunity. Right when somebody shouts, one of the Gerhardt guys shouts, "They're cops!" And then Hansi gets his big hunting knife and he just stabs Floyd, just guts her and just kills her.
Guts Floyd. I was like, holy shit.
Bear sees this and he screams and starts charging towards him, and he gets shot in the side of the head by Lou. And it's a great shot because you don't know initially where he got shot. You just see the Bear stops, kind of looking dazed, and the camera moves over.
It's like a bird pooped on him.
Yeah, he's been shot right in the right side of his temple, and he's still alive. He sees Lou standing there with a gun, and then he charges him. Lou shoots him again. He knocks Lou on the ground, and he starts wrapping his arms around his throat, and he's choking him out, and Lou's on the verge of death. Hansi, meanwhile, has taken this opportunity to sneak upstairs to try and break into Ed and Peggy's room. And then the deal breaker happens. Thank you, Eugene Bird. Very generous.
Did you see what the picture is?
I can't see the picture.
It's a hippopotamus that has been assimilated by the Borg. It's a hippopotamus with like a missile, with an eye sort of prosthesis, and then it's got like a pinchy arm, but it's a robot arm. It's lovely. So, it's very nice.
So then the deal breaker happens.
Yes.
They've been teasing the UFO things throughout the season. It was questionable whether or not Rye actually saw a UFO or not. But here we are, as Lou is about to die, with Bear choking the life out of him, quite literally.
But Lou shot him like 4 times.
Yeah, Bear lives up to his name. He is a bear, and he is not going down.
Plowed through that. Anyway,
and then
the deal choking the life. Yes.
So, like I said, they've been teasing UFOs and alien all this season. We don't know what it's building up to. And right as Lou is on the brink of death, a massive flying saucer just beams out of nowhere, hovers over the quad of this motel.
Spotlights. Everybody sees it.
Yeah, beam lights everywhere. Bear looks up at it, and Lou takes the opportunity to grab his revolver, puts the gun right under Bear's chin, and bam, blowing Bear's brains out. And finally, Bear goes down.
But also, Lou gets up, grabs his gun, and continues the gunfight while the aliens are hovering over this motel.
Well, it takes him a minute to get up, though, because he's been kind of really, like, Bear did a number on him.
No, but so I've been on a couple of Star Trek podcasts, and sometimes I think about, First Contact and such. And I was thinking, like, what if aliens saw this as being the first encounter with humans? We would be a disgrace. And so I just had that in my head the entire time. And I did separate them eventually.
So Lou's lying there on the ground.
Yes.
Tries to get up. He starts getting back in the gunfight. Hansi, meanwhile, distracted by the UFO, gets a whole freshly made brewed cup of coffee just splashed on the left side of his face. As his name implies, Hansi Dent is Harvey Dent. The left side of his face is burned away. Ed and Peggy make a run for it, but not before Hansi, having gotten splashed, shoots a bit with his gun, and the kickback of the fire hits Ed up in the upper chest here, and Ed and Peggy take off. Hansi takes a minute before he gets to his feet to start chasing them. And then we have Martin Freeman interrupt again with the narration, questioning why is Hansi going through hell or high water now that he's wiped out the Gerhardts to go after Ed and Peggy. Yes. And like you mentioned, the narrator posits is because he made himself vulnerable to them, that they've witnessed him. I don't think it's a vulnerability thing or a witness thing. I think it's that, like he said, I'm tired of his life. He wanted to trust somebody. He told Peggy, like, hey, can you do it? Like, he didn't care about Dot or anything. He thought, finally, I could trust somebody who's not going to judge me or any of this kind of crap. And even that person stabbed me in the back. And so he's just pissed off. Like, it's just unbridled rage is driving him at this point. That somebody who's not the, Eric.
Doesn't he murder like a 4 children?
No, he doesn't. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So it's unbridled rage that pisses him off about Peggy, because she's not like some crotchety old racist like the assholes at the bar. She's like supposedly a nice lady, and yet even she turned against him. And so he's just pissed. So he gives chase. Lewis sees this happen. He's about to follow when he hears Hank shout, "Officer down!" So he goes up to Hank, who got a gut shot, and he helps stop the bleeding. And then Hank's like, "I'll be fine now that you've helped me, go." And I admit, I thought that Hank was done for when I first saw this. What'd you think?
I thought he was going to die.
Yeah. So,
which was, but also it added to the drama of the situation. Like, I was watching this on my laptop outside. I know, ideal conditions. And as soon as I saw Hank gets shot, I was like, no! The entire neighborhood knew I was upset. It was shocking. And again, I was on the edge of my seat with the soundtrack, the cinematography, the split screens, but keep going with the plot.
So Lou takes off after Ed and Peggy.
Oh, wait, one more thing.
Yeah.
I really appreciated the fact that Hansi didn't shoot at the spaceship.
Yeah, he just kind of looked at it, kind of like, what the hell? Oh, that was a funny bit, too, when Ed wants to stop to look at it, even after being shot. He's like, hey, hun, what? And then
Are you seeing this?
Yeah, and Peggy's like, it's just a science saucer, Ed, let's go. Like, she just doesn't even care.
It was adorable. That was so fun.
It was fun. They take off. Lou finally gives chase. And then Mike Milligan shows up with the other kitchen brother. And they're walking into the scene. And then Mike stops. I noticed how Mike stays in the back seat until the kitchen brother opens the door for him.
Yes.
So he's already letting himself be treated like a boss. Because he's...
Whatever happened to that kitchen brother?
That's a good point. We never find out. But anyway. They walk forward and he sees Floyd dead, sees Baird, and he's like, oh shit, they hear the sirens coming, so they take off, realizing they're not going to get Dot after all. Ed and Peggy, meanwhile, are on the run, and we see Ed is struggling. He's kind of bleeding. Peggy increasingly has to keep supporting him. Hansi's coming after her, shooting them. Lou comes by, starts shooting. They make another allusion to No Country for Old Men, where Ed and Peggy try to flag down this guy in a pickup truck, and then right as they're explaining, oh, don't be worried, we're just here, and then bam!
Boom!
The driver gets taken out by Hansi. They flee.
That was walking good television, yo. That was shocking.
And when Hansi's trying to follow them alongside a storefront, he sees Lou's reflection from the window on the other side of the street, aiming his gun. And then Hansi dives behind the car like Sugar does in that movie. Lou unloads his service weapon, but then Hansi has disappeared, much like Sugar did in that shootout in that film. Then Ben Schmidt wanders around the corner. They almost Lou and him almost kill each other, but they stop themselves and they keep going. Ed and Peggy, meanwhile, make it to a supermarket where she shouts at this guy sweeping,
go away, there's a bad man coming.
Yeah, run, go. So they take off and hide in the freezer. She locks the freezer with the knife from inside.
Because you know what? When you have a person who is bleeding out, what you want to do is put them in a cold place.
Yeah. Then Hansi comes into the store. He's angry and he's got his face is all burned off. He's coming up with a gun up the aisles. And then we have this great moment between Ed and Peggy. One of my favorite scenes of the season, actually. When they're talking and she's doing the usual thing. Oh, don't worry, being in complete denial of how bad the situation is and we're going to get out of it, blah, blah, blah. And Ed's trying to get her to stop talking and stop interrupting him because he's trying to tell her that, hey, I don't think, even if we get out of it, I don't think our relationship is going to survive this. We're just too different. And he sums up the problem with Peggy. He said, look, yeah, I appreciate you're always trying to fix things, but your problem is you're always trying to fix things when there's nothing broken in the first place.
Mm.
And he's like, and he's basically finally found a way to stand up to himself to Peggy. And she finally, for the first time, is kind of almost getting it a little bit.
No, I don't think she gets it. I don't think she gets it.
Maybe.
No.
Then the smoke starts filtering in through the vent, and she panics, realizing that Hansi has set a fire outside the freezer door to smoke them out, just like in the movie, she says, from the movie she was watching that Molly was also watching earlier in the season, the one that Reagan talked about on the campaign trail. And she's like, oh, it's just like in the movie, and she's freaking out about it, and the smoke is filling up, they're losing it. And then finally realizing that there's no other recourse, and Ed now is effectively dead, unfortunately, looks dead, having passed out. Peggy pulls the knife.
Shot.
She pulls the knife that she used to lock the door, and she charges out.
It's a sharpening.
Yeah, sharpening tool.
Rod.
Yeah, and she charges out of the freezer right into Lou's arms, and we see that there's no fire, there's no smoke, there's no Hansi. She's completely delusional, and he's like, no, we followed Ed's blood trail here. Hansi was never here. Yeah. She's crazy. Yeah. Then Schmidt goes in to check on Ed, and sadly, Ed is dead. And I was rooting for Ed a lot on the first time I saw the season. I wanted Ed to pull through. I was so upset when they tragically killed Ed. He did not survive.
I do agree, and I think that Peggy got him killed. And all he wanted was just a house and a butcher shop and a wife with a kid. That's all he wanted. But then somebody had to go to a seminar.
Well,
but yeah, no, I'm glad at the end of his life, he was like, babe, it's not you, it's me. But I can't take this shit no more.
But it's interesting because as Lou will recall, I'll get to this next bit. So Peggy's freaking out and being hysterical and realizing that Ed is dead. She's finally having a total breakdown. And Lou puts Peggy in the back of the squad car, and he tells Schmidt that I'm taking my suspect here back to Minnesota. If anybody's got a problem with that after the week I've had, you could shove off or whatever. And Ben is finally starting to lose it because he's like, I don't even know how to write this up. And Lou tries to reassure him that it's going to be okay because now that Schmidt's boss is dead, he's going to be probably even getting a bigger promotion than the one he was previously going to get. And he's not as cocksure as he was earlier in the season. He's like really troubled, like really disturbed by everything that's happened. But Lou just tells him, don't worry, it's going to be okay. And he takes off with Peggy. And as they're driving down the road, Peggy's asking if she could get a federal case out of this. And Lou's like,
my stars, the
I couldn't believe it.
Delusional.
Like, I know. And Lou's like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, I found out there's this prison, San Quentin, in California on the north side of San Francisco Bay, looking out on the bay. Maybe I'll see a pelican. Still thinking about California and this delusional that even in prison it'd be better to be in California. I'm like, oh God, I can't believe I'm hearing this. And Lou can't believe this either.
No, and I was absolutely flabbergasted. And that's like, it wasn't it, before she was in the back of the Prowler, like at the beginning of episode 9, I was like, wait a second. She is actually delusionally insane. And she's like, oh no, we're on a journey. We're following our paths. And it's just like, no, wait, hang on. And it was that moment when Lou says, and it's like, people are dead, Peggy.
That's what she even told the police captain when they got detained in the cabin. Oh, we're realized and actually, he's like, what the hell does that mean? But you're right.
She is actually stupid.
She is completely delusional. And Ed, or
she's
Lou,
also my dream girl. Kirsten Dunst, call me. No.
So Lou tries to tell her a story to get through to her. And he's talking, you can see these videos on YouTube, by the way. They're incredible. He's talking about the end of the Vietnam War, the fall of Saigon, and how everybody was fleeing to get on the ships. And they were having helicopters fly in with people who were now refugees, basically, landing on the carriers, dropping people off, and then they would push the helicopters off the deck of the ship because there wasn't enough space to keep the helicopters with all the people. And he said they did this over and over again as you're watching this, and then eventually a Chinook came along. And there was a pilot and his whole family are on here, but he can't really get them on. And they're waving him off because he can't land, but he ends up getting as close as possible so they can just jump and free fall onto the deck. And that the mother even tossed the baby out on the deck for someone to catch. And then the pilot, realizing that he can't land it there and doesn't want to get everybody killed, turns the Chinook on its side. And as it's falling near the water, he runs and just crawls out and leaps out onto the deck. And there's a great video of this stuff. You can see it. It's a totally legit story.
Absolutely.
And the point in the story that the reason Lou is telling this to Peggy is that, Ed tried to tell me before and I pretended not to understand. But like the last chance Ed had to save himself was when they were in the cabin and Lou wanted him to get a lawyer and go back to the station, which, as you pointed out, probably wouldn't have gone well because there's corruption in that district. But Lou realizes that the reason Ed was standing his ground is because it was his duty to defend his family. And he felt that was the best play that he had because he wasn't averse to the fact that there was corruption and that, Kansas City was probably a better way to go with this deal. And then Lou is talking essentially about the myth of Sisyphus, which, as we know from the stamp in season 3 and from the book that the clerk is reading in season 2, and being the optimist, as we know Ed was, he thinks, doing the same thing every day, working towards a good thing, whereas the cynics think it's just a futile endeavor. But Lewis falls on the optimistic side as well. And he's like, doing what we do every day for our families is our privilege, not our, suffering. But Peggy is, like you pointed out, completely insane, and she
Yes.
just doesn't get what he's talking about. Like, he's trying to get through to her. It's like, Peggy, Ed has been trying to do the right thing and help you this entire time, and he is dead, and you're still talking about California and being, like, delusional. Like I said, I still don't know. I think this is the third or fourth time I've seen this season all the way through. I still don't know what self-actualization in Peggy's mind even mean. Like, what the hell does that even mean? I don't know.
That is, that's an excellent question. I never thought about what her self-actualization was. I thought it was just sort of self-satisfaction, and just being happy with what she was doing. And that's the problem. And that's why I'm so happy that Ed broke up with her on his deathbed and said, "Fuck you, bitch. You're crazy."
I didn't feel that's what he was.
I just wanted a hammock.
I don't think that was his
Let me have a hammock.
That wasn't his attitude, though. He was disappointed.
No, he was disappointed. It wasn't a matter of being like angry at her.
No, he wasn't angry. Like, he wasn't like having a victory.
He says out loud, like, "I love you. I love you. I just don't think that this, like, I wish it would, but I just don't. I think you want different things."
Yeah. Which goes back to my original suspicion that they probably got together. From her perspective, it was probably like a fairy tale wedding, or, oh, fairy tale, I need to pair up with somebody to go to the prom, and Ed, being a simpleton, just kind of fell in love with her, and without really thinking about the fact that they're not in any way compatible. And
well, yeah, but like, have you seen Kirsten Dunst? Like,
what about
her? The gorgeousness is what I'm referring to specifically. Oh, you don't think she's gorgeous? Well,
I think she's okay. I think she's okay. I mean, I'm not.
You think she's okay?
Not drop dead gorgeous.
She was in a movie called Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Scott, everybody is going to have different opinions on that. Otherwise, everybody would be in love with the same person.
Yeah, no, I know, and I'm glad. But unfortunately, Jesse Plemons, her co-star in Fargo season 2, they are happily married.
Yeah, that's fun. I think that's kind of ironic that their marriage kind of slowly dissolves over the season, and yet they get married in real life. Fargo, once again, bringing people together. And so that's the end of Peggy's story. We don't find out. Okay, so they got her for the hit and run.
Oh, she goes to,
they got her for failure
forever.
No, not necessarily. Here's the thing: when you think about it, what you have her for is the hit and run, and failure to report numerous crimes. But failure to report doesn't amount to life sentence.
Conspiracy to dispose, like, is what happens when you grind up a body?
That was Ed's idea, remember?
It doesn't matter.
But here's the thing, they have to prove it because they never found the body, so they don't know what happened.
This is Laverne's Bonnie and Clyde. We got the Butcher of Laverne and the beautician.
Scott, stop.
Yes,
I will.
There's
no evidence that Ed did any of those things. They have no witnesses and no evidence, and Peggy's not going to tell them once she gets appointed an attorney. Like, she's not going to tell them any of that. And so all they can prove is that, okay, you got in a hit and run, and her lawyer could feasibly argue that, hey, there was a gangster, and he could lie and say, oh, she recognized him and figured she'd be in deep shit. But here's the thing: most of the crimes after that, it's a matter of what you can prove. And with so many people dead, of primary players dead already, it's more like what you can get her for sure is on the hit and run and failure to report for a few different things, but that's about it. So I don't know, say in the timeline of season 3 in 2010 or whatever, she would still be in prison after 30 years. Because she's still young. I don't know if she would be there forever, Who
would play old Peggy? Heather Locklear?
How old do you think she's supposed to be in season 2? Like, they're 29. That's right. They mentioned it. She and Ed are supposed to be 29 years old.
Yes.
Obviously, they were a lot older than that when they filmed it, but they were trying to pass them off as 29.
Is Heather Locklear still kicking? Does she still do?
Oh, I think Kirsten Dunst could still play her older. Just give her dye her hair or whatever, and a little bit of makeup. It's not
okay. I'm not against bringing back.
I'm just saying that
bring back Kiki. That's fine.
I'm just saying that given what can be proven versus what can't be proven, that it's feasible that we can see Peggy again or hear about her. I don't think she's necessarily going to be in prison for the rest of her life. maybe 20 years or something for the hit and run, but who knows?
Let's
so
hope.
that's what I'm saying there.
She shows up in the same cell block as John Hamm, Roy Tillman. Anyway,
that means it would be federal because he's in prison in Illinois.
Yeah, and see, but that's you can't always get what you want. But she's
they
never
could
been
maybe
to
find some
Illinois.
federal crime because
She's just a small town girl.
oh wait, that's right. They admitted
living in a lonely world.
No, I forgot. She admitted to the kidnapping. I forgot about that.
Oh right,
Dodd was dead.
There's
I forgot.
also-
That's right. She admitted to all the cops that he tried. Well, she did say that Dodd tried to kill her, and then they captured him. So I guess she's done.
I'm with Lou. Like people
Actually,
are
that
dead.
That would be a federal crime. That is a federal crime because she kidnapped him and took him across state lines. So that's a federal crime. She could be in prison with Roy Tillman, or in a neighboring prison. Anyway, so that's the end of Peggy's story.
Bye.
Meanwhile, Mike Milligan goes back to corporate in Kansas City. Alan Arkin's there, and he's
This was the most heartbreaking thing in the world.
So the Adam Arkin character's congratulating him, and immediately Mike is being self-deprecating, and Adam's like stops right on the stairway. He's like, "Don't do that. Don't turn a compliment into something else." He's like, "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir." He's like, "And don't apologize." And he's like, "Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir." And he marches him down the hall, and Mike starts telling him his ideas for what they're going to do to take over the Fargo syndicate. And now that the Gerhardts are gone, and oh wait, I forgot. Before that scene, I skipped something. Mike went back to the Gerhardt Ranch.
Yes.
And he went inside.
Just want to say hi to DJ Play.
Yes, DJ Play. So that's right. So the chef and housekeeper, a Native American woman, is cooking in the kitchen. Mike went in there, and he looks inside the what's cooking on the stove, and he says, "From this moment on, no more like German dishes, no more schnitzel, no more of this. Time to get some American food." And then that dope from Buffalo, that Gerhardt ally, shows up, and he's there, and he knows all the Gerhardts are dead, so he's in there pilfering all the silverware because it's made of like real silver. And Mike and the kitchen brother walk in there, holding him at gunpoint, and he's like, "What are they running low? Are you guys too cheap to afford a real shotgun?" And Mike's like, "Well, times are tough." And he's like, and Mike's like, "I don't know if you heard, but I'm kind of the king now, king of the hill." And the dope's like, "Well, I don't know if you heard, but we're in America. There's no kings here." And Mike's like, "Yes, there is. They just don't call him that anymore. But in the spirit of being a king, I should be showing a kindness and a cruelty." Now, do you have the idea what the word sovereignty means? And the guy's like an idiot. He's like, "What? Am I a professor from Gilligan's Island? But I'll take the former. I'll be the kindness." He's like, "Oh, well, I'm afraid I already showed a kindness to the lady in the kitchen there." And then the dope's like, "Oh, well, okay." And he's like, "Hey, say, have you ever been to Baltimore?" And he whips out his gun, and the kitchen brother just blows him away with a shotgun. And he's going to go finish him off, and Mike stops him because he wants him to suffer. And he's like, "No, it's about cruelty." And it's great because it's like symbolic of Mike going to claim his castle, essentially. He is taking over the ranch. And there's no indication that he knows that Simone is dead. Not that he would care, because he just used her anyway.
Yes.
And that's another interesting thing that Fargo did or didn't do. Like, Floyd never found out that Bear killed Simone, which would have been an interesting deviation. She never found out that Simone had betrayed the family or anything. That's, because she and Simone had that little moment together a couple episodes ago where she was trying to tell her how it is. But kind of like Fargo does, they set things up and sometimes they pay off and sometimes they don't, in the spirit of it being a true story. So after Mike has claimed his castle, he goes back to Kansas City, and that's where Adam Arkin is basically setting him up in his new office, because he's telling him that, "Look, I'm not going to put you on the day-to-day crap in Fargo. We got a whole team for that. We've delegated that. They're already out there. It's fine." And he basically says your new job is to be an accountant, finding out how to shorten routes, how to get by without greasing as many palms, so on and so forth. You better learn how to play golf because that's where all the best deals are made. And get rid of this Western thing, this fake tie, get a haircut. It's not the 70s anymore. You get a pinstripe suit. And he's like, "I don't understand, sir." He's like, "Look, someone from HR is going to be here to talk over your 401k and your health benefits and all that. But look at it this way. We got a guy down the hall who he figured out how to save $1 million a quarter based on our postage in the basement. And they gave him California. You can go places. I admit I was wrong about you. You'll be great. Just make sure you learn how to golf." And Mike is just so dejected that, and this is like not even an office. This is even skinnier than this upstairs room, like really tight.
No, it's a terrible office.
And Mike,
it has a window. At least it has a window.
Yeah, and it's like Mike has been aspiring to climb the ladder to move up. He's been his own boss this
Yeah,
whole time.
but this is up.
Cocksure of himself, and now
Well, what?
this is
Like
the white
what?
collar job he got broke into.
And he even says, he's like, "Oh no, we can get a couple of guys and do this," and it's like, "Oh no, we have other people to do that. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You just sit here and try and save us money." And it's like, oh,
It's like he's telling him this is a big shot job at the same time saying, "Oh, you don't want to be one of the drones," but it's kind of like he's being made into a drone, just a white collar
oh,
drone.
I don't even know what Mike's doing there.
Right, and the
Like,
fact that they have 401ks and health benefits means it has an official cover for whatever the business is. We don't know what that is because we haven't
I
seen
don't
Mike since then.
like, and he was working towards this. Did he understand that this is where he was going to get?
Of course not.
He does
Like,
say we're going to get what is it? Head office approval or something like that. He says that in like the 9th.
Yeah, and he's the right because that's why he went back to the Gerhardt Ranch. He's claiming the castle. He's the king taking over it's his turf now, and now it's not. Instead, he's been promoted, and very much in the spirit of a corporation. You are now just an empty suit who works here, and because you get rewarded with
zeros,
you did well, but like a corporation often does. They see somebody that's really good at something, and they'll try and reward them by promoting them out of that job that they're really good at. And it's like, oh, you get more money now and more benefits, but you're not going to perform.
Don't make me quote Star Trek Generations.
But you're not going to perform as well in this new job as you would have if he had been given the job that he wanted.
All right.
So, Mike, what was the quote? I don't know. I'm not familiar.
What, from Star Trek Generations?
Yeah.
You know, are you planning on are they going to promote you? Or are you going to retire? And then Captain Picard says, no, not planning on it. And then Kirk says, well, don't do anything that takes you out of that chair. Don't let them promote you. Don't let them anything that makes you be in that chair. I'm bastardizing this quote. Just stay in that chair, because when you're there, you can make a difference.
Yeah, I know plenty of people like that who like having the more independence of like being at the individual stores rather than in the corporate office because they get to travel around a bit more, or they like being a trucker, their own person. They don't want to get promoted up into the main office.
Dolly Parton does not like 9 to 5.
Yes. And that's another thing. That's actually also the Adam Market character says. He's like, oh, it's pretty much a 9 to 5 job. And Mike is just like, he, what is the guy's name anyway?
Bokeem Woodbine?
No, the Adam Arkin character. He's
that's Gary Fontana.
Hamish Broker. That's his name.
That's him.
Broker.
Oh, another Hamish. No. What was Dave Foley's name in season 5?
Danish.
Okay.
But Hamish Linklater was an actor in season 3, played LaRue Dollard.
He was great. I love him. He's actually I just saw he got cast in something that I'm excited for. Anyway.
So now we get to the next potential deal breaker of the season. If people didn't think that the aliens was necessarily jumping the shark, they might think the next one is. Who knows?
Oh no, I love the aliens. Anybody who thinks the aliens are lame or stupid.
So Hansi has escaped the net that Mike Schmidt put out for him. We're not sure exactly where he is, but he's at a baseball field, and I don't know in what state or how far, but he's watching these two kids play baseball. Very familiar, recognizable kids. And this guy walks up to Hansi, and he sits down on the bleachers next to him.
Who is
talking? They don't really say it, but he's some representative, I guess, because the Gerhardts were responsible for shipping and distribution. So it was part of a larger network of some kind, and this guy must be a representative for that. And gives Hansi a new a pamphlet, and it's got a new social security card in there with the name Moses Tripoli.
It wasn't Kansas City? You don't think it's Kansas City?
No, I don't think so. Maybe it could be. I don't know, but I don't see why they would want to recruit him. Because
not recruit him, just pay him for his work. He pretty much destroyed.
Well, it's possible, because here's the thing. So he's asking, so he gives Hansi the card, and it says Moses Tripoli, and he's like, you're probably wondering why Tripoli, and he talks about how, how the history of Tripoli and how they betrayed each other and took over the kingdoms and all that, kind of like what Hansi has just done with the Gerhardts. And he's like, yes, and so you will create your own new empire, which will one day collapse into the sea. And Hansi's like, I'm going to need a new face. He's like, I take it you're going to want more than just, skin peel. You're going to want reconstructive work, structural work. And he's like, don't worry, there's information in the pamphlet about that. And Hansi's like, okay. And that, because remember, the guy asked him if he wants revenge on Kansas City. He's like, I take it you're going to want revenge. So I don't think he's from Kansas City. He's like, I take it you're going to want revenge on those guys. And he's like,
oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, revenge or to apprehend them. And he says, nah, not apprehend, head in the bag. And then he says in his language, there's the message. Because, of course, as we know, Moses Tripoli was the head of the Fargo crime syndicate in season 1, who told his guys that regarding Malvo, nope, don't care extramarital, don't care any of this, head in a bag, that's it. And so Hansi apparently got a complete transformation into Moses Tripoli and became the heavyset white guy running the Fargo crime syndicate. And the last thing he does is he sees two kids. He sees the two kids being picked on by bullies.
Yes.
They're using sign language to communicate.
Yes.
The bullies are being violent, and Hansi goes after them with his hunting knife, and we don't see what happens, but we know that
I assumed he slaughtered 4 children.
2.
Just 2?
Because the 2 children being picked on were Mr. Wrench and Mr. Numbers.
Oh.
That's why they're doing sign language. Yes, it's confirmed, Mr. Wrench and Mr. Numbers. Hansi is recruiting children to his cause.
I didn't understand why they were doing sign language, and I'm such an idiot.
Just like in The Departed, when Frank Costello goes into the shop and buys comic books for the kid who grows up to be Matt Damon's character. Same kind of idea. So he has just saved Wrench and Numbers and has recruited his first people for his own side. So that means, rather sadly, given how much I love the Hansi character, that his character meets his end off screen in season 1 when Malvo goes on his tyrannical, massacre through the building. Because it seems like they could have gotten a lot of mileage out of it. I kind of wish I could have seen those 2 characters meet under slightly different circumstances.
Yeah.
Now there is still, like, to your point, what becomes of Kansas City, because we didn't hear about them being around in season 1. Did Hansi go and get revenge on Kansas City and wipe them out? We don't know. So there's still more to be told in that story. Much like we saw in season 3, the fact that Mr. Wrench was in his street clothes when he was on the prison bus means he must have taken up Malvo on his offer and escaped and had simply been rearrested again. Otherwise, he would be in a jumpsuit. So I like that Fargo always leaves these little avenues open. There's other stories that are yet to tell, like why exactly did Mike Milligan end up joining Kansas City? How did that happen? So that's another situation which we could find out about later.
And I saw the parallel between like the end credits, like the post credit scene in season 4, and it was the moment that Mike was in the backseat with only one of the Kitchen brothers. And like, it was that moment going up. And so when I was like, I liked watching this after having watched season 4, so I could think about Mike's childhood. It was like a flashback that hadn't been established in the narrative of the show yet, but I got to watch it that way. It was great. It was fun.
We still do have the loose end of course, Charlie Gerhardt, who is still in jail, I guess, awaiting.
Oh, yeah. What about Chuck?
Noah Hawley said that he would like to write him a letter to see how he's doing one day, as if he's a real person, which I thought was funny. Because you never get Charlie's reaction either to finding out that his father and his whole family have been wiped out, which I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity. That could have been a moment.
Well, he'll come back.
And I was also surprised that we didn't get another.
He can reload. Don't worry, he can reload.
I was also surprised we didn't get another, like, one more scene with Carl, because the last time we see him is when Betsy tells him, like, look, you need to stop drinking and stop being this old, So I thought maybe we would have gotten another scene of him maybe starting to clean his act up or whatever, but we don't get to see him again.
Who's Carl?
Nick Offerman, the guy who's Walter from Big Lebowski, but not.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was kind of, but you know what? Because the last 2 episodes were sort of like the way that they were, I was okay without Nick Offerman. I didn't need that sort of comedic spice. I was happy, or sorry, comedic sugar. I was very happy with like Patrick Wilson carries the last two episodes of this, and I was like,
Yes, and the
that's enough. And then you get Ted Danson and the lady who plays Betsy.
yeah. So the final scene is
Yes,
they're back home. He finds out that that Betsy had the health scare, but she's fine,
she's
and
okay.
they're talking, and Betsy's talking to her dad, Hank, and saying, "Look, I took over care of the cat, so you were in the hospital." He's like, "Oh, thanks for that." She's like, "While I was there, I went into your office," and Hank's like, "Oh." And he's like, "What's?" Because as we remember, there were all those weird symbols and papers are everywhere. It's like, what the hell is this? And he's talking and he explains that after his wife died, things were pretty bad for a while, and he started thinking about languages and about communication and how if aliens from another planet, things like that, were to come, how would you communicate? It can't be through language. It would be something more universal, images. And he became kind of interested in that type of stuff and started like making his own pictorial language of sorts to keep himself occupied or whatnot, and trying to come up with a universal language or whatever. An interesting kind of side hobby. Yeah. And I admit I was kind of surprised that that's what it was. I wasn't sure what it was going to amount to, and I thought I was also surprised that that was their choice for like the final, like loose end to tie up at the end of the season. And I was like, okay, what'd you make of that?
I enjoyed that. Well, I thought it was, and I thought it was lovely. I thought it was something that when you are presented with something and you're like, oh no, it's going to be a puzzle. And the puzzle ends up being, yeah, I was trying to make a universal language so that everyone would just be able to communicate with one another and be okay. Like that's what my experience was in war. Like just if we could just talk about it, everything would be okay. Maybe that makes me strange, says Hank. And maybe that makes him wrong, but he believes in it. And that's exactly why Betsy says, you're a good man.
Mm. Yeah, he wants to talk. Well, I guess that's true then, because it kind of is another version of what did you do all this for? Oh, just a little bit of money. Whereas all of this violence has been over all this bullshit, and Hank is one who would advocate just talking about your problems.
Just talk about it.
Kind of like what Floyd wanted to do when she wanted to talk with Kansas City, and they were like, yeah, no.
Yeah. Oh, she was willing to deal, but
yeah. Hence the great irony that Dodd, of all people, was right that was never going to work with Kansas City.
Yeah, but he was advocating just punching holes in walls.
That's true. I also think that with Bear, I was kind of expecting there to be something else. Like, yes, he does kill Simone. He feels bad about it, and he's even the score. But I was surprised the way I don't know what I was expecting necessarily. I just thought that his character had something else like big to the story to provide, and then that didn't really happen. Because like he was talking with Hansi earlier that, hey, you're always a part of this family. We're welcoming you. And that even after Hansi hears him say that, even though Dodd doesn't let Hansi reciprocate or Hansi reply, but that doesn't really amount to anything. And it's like, okay, another one of those, this is based on a true story type things where you think something, because Bear has been a very quiet, I mean, yeah, he had his moment in the 6th episode when he leads the posse down to the police station, but I don't know, I guess I was expecting something else from him towards the end. Kind of like with, I'm not going to lie, when Floyd got taken out like that, I was kind of disappointed because I was kind of waiting for her to have her big moment too, and then it doesn't really happen. Hansi just like, bam, it's like, oh shit, Yes, Lemon Pie says Dodd just wanted a chocolate glazed donut. And so then Lou puts Molly to bed, says, hey, we'll go fishing tomorrow. How about that? And she's happy about it. And then he and Betsy go to bed. So it's, for the time being, a happy ending. And Betsy recounts how she had a vision of the future of the happy family and that she and Hank wouldn't be there, but that the rest of them would. And that was kind of a happy way to, kind of
it was bittersweet. And it was lovely to bring back. Like, again, it was a flashback to the future.
Yeah, so the two things which are the biggest source of hubbub when these episodes came out was
sure
the flying saucer and the fact that a lot of people, myself included, had a hard time buying in with as crazy as this series is, with Supernatural, all that type of stuff. The idea that Hansi becomes Moses Tripoli, a guy who's significantly taller than Hansi, who's got a completely different facial structure, completely bleached, white guy, no scars on his face or anything to account for this major reconstruction. Like, a lot of people kind of had a new voice, even completely voice spots. Like, I even thought, and I know it's weird to say given the series has endorsed the Supernatural, but just for the things that you kind of like, yeah, okay, I could accept that you have supernatural stuff, but the rest of the stuff that you're trying to tell us feels very grounded, like, you know, the type of Fargo storylines they tell. And this just seemed a bit, you know, a bit much. It just, but that was also something that kind of, like, people felt that that was kind of some random twist that they thought of at the end without putting much thought into it. Because it's like, well, if you do that, then that means you've, like I mentioned, you rob us of a final scene with this great character of Hansi by just, you know, killing him off screen.
Yeah, but also, like, it's a made-up name. Maybe it is one that is dispensed to many people.
Could be, but they've kind of, I mean, they could retcon that if they want to.
I'm just saying, it's a get out of jail free.
Yeah.
I don't think about these. I'm not as focused on the connections between all of the series. I appreciate the references, but if it plays fast and loose, stylistically, I'm okay with that in Fargo. I don't know why. Like, I'm not treating this as canonical science fiction or anything.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this as like, oh no, it's interwoven. I mean, I'm looking at the Fargo television series the same reverence that I have for like the View Askew universe. It's like, oh no, I see that. I see that also over there. But it doesn't, like, if it doesn't all match up 100%, I'm okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I mentioned, I think this season is really great because
Yeah,
it's not as, it's a lot more delicate with the way it's having their illusions, like with the, you know, American Indian movement with Hansi, the feminist movement with Peggy and Constance and Simone, and then
Reagan.
the corporate versus the onset of corporate America versus, you know, family businesses with Kansas City and the Gerhardts, and, you know, Reagan and the whole waiting for Dutch and that whole cynicism and waiting to get out of all this hell. Like to Hank's point about wanting to talk about your problems, that's exactly what Lou tried to do with Reagan when they were in the bathroom, and he's like, how? Like, let's talk about it. And Reagan didn't have an answer for him.
Fuck the doomed.
Which is pretty much sums up Reagan in a nutshell. It's like, yeah, he has a lot of bravado to get people out of the cynicism, but not many answers to that question either. And so I just think it was done much less cartoonish in terms of its illusions compared to season 5. But I do think season 2, I don't know if this is too much to say, but I think it's on the table for me personally as my favorite ever prequel of any kind.
How?
Because it is a prequel. Like season 1, they keep talking about the Sioux Falls incident. We finally get to see what that is. And it makes sense why Lou, because it's not just a massacre. It's obviously the UFO is what Lou was alluding to in season 1 when he's talking about the weird and peculiar things that happen that you sometimes can't really explain or put your finger on it. And it's like, okay, but as far as prequels go, this is really good. Like, it's really damn good.
Yes. Now that you put that on the table, I never actually thought about it. And I'm gonna have to sit with it for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is certainly a good call. Like, while I was watching this season of Fargo, I was thinking about the Carradine fella who played Lou in the first one. What's his name?
Keith Carradine, I think.
Is it Keith? Good for Keith. And so, and I was like, is this a good follow-up? Now, and so, yes. Also, I would like to say, not only is it on the table as being one of the best prequels of all time, which I'm entertaining. But also, I think it's one of the best, like, second seasons.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, not in. I love anthology series. I wish this is what Star Trek Discovery had done. Noah Hawley should be in charge of everything. But yes, I thought that this was a very successful. It made me, and we watched this shit out of order, yo. And so when we watched season 2, I was like, oh yeah, season 1 was great. What a great way to make a show. Is just a cross-reference and cross-pollinate. Loved it. I clapped when I recognized the thing, and I consumed product.
Yeah, so I really love this. Hansi is my second favorite character in the Fargo universe, the first being Varga, the third being Malvo.
What? You are a disturbed person.
Well, I like these colorful types of characters that are really out there and kind of weird.
Who are completely fine with murder, I might add.
So what? It's TV. It's okay to root for the bad guys and be excited by them sometimes.
All right.
I was totally rooting for Hansi when I first saw the 7th and 8th episodes on for the rest of the season. I thought that was great. The Ed and Peggy storyline was just great. Even as upset, despite my upset at the fact that Ed didn't make it. And you're right, Patrick Wilson totally does own the last 2 episodes of that season. He was so good. Yes. Really
with
great.
A nice, a little bit of support from Ted Danson.
And Gene Smart, really great as well for Floyd running the family.
Yes.
Even though I was expecting her to have a bigger role towards the end, but it is what it is. I do hope I agree with you that I hope we see Bokeem Woodbine again as Mike Milligan.
Bokeem Woodbine, I'm just going to start collecting performances of Bokeem Woodbine. I'm gonna get what's that Marky Mark movie? The Big Hit, I think, from the 90s. It was like, oh yeah, no, Bokeem Woodbine is in that. I'm gonna buy that.
Any other thoughts on season 2 before we rate it?
No, I give it 10 Bokeem Woodbines.
Yeah, I give it 10. I think this is a great. I think this is the best season. I shouldn't have said that, but I've already been saying it. I think I've said it plenty of times in the season. So now we can move on.
It's not a spoiler.
We each give it 10 out of 10, and now it's time for our rankings. Including the movie. How do we rank the 6 different Fargo stories? Or do we want to look at the chat first to give ourselves time to think about it?
We should probably. Well, no. Can I be lazy for a second?
Yeah.
Can you go check out? Can you check out the chat while I go have a smoke and then come back?
I can do that if you're gonna.
Are you okay with that? Is that cool?
If you want to, I don't know why you want to. I mean, we're almost at the end of this.
I know, but I want a cigarette.
Of course you do.
I'm addicted. I'll see you in a second.
Let's see who we got. Let's see. This is a spaghetti. Looking for. Oh yes. Cinema Gulp says, "I want a Carl Showalter Fargo season. That would be fantastic." And he adds that set it in the 1980s. That would be cool to see him come back in the 80s. And Noah Hawley does say he wants to do a season set in the 80s. So that could happen. Let's see. Twin Peaks or Fargo. Oh, yeah. Twin Peaks or Fargo. They're calling. Okay, yeah, they're comparing TV shows. That's cool. Lemon Pie says, Hansi is actually just trying to collect the seminar fees. That's great. That's a good point. You bring that up. I was thinking that the action was going to spill over into the seminar because they didn't say exactly where in Sioux Falls it was, but the fact that she was staying at a different motel, I guess nearby, got me thinking that the seminar must be near there, or we'd hear something about the seminar, kind of like when Peggy had that vision when she was in her basement about the guy who was hosting the seminar talking to her about self-actualization. But That would be funny. Let's see. So the journey. Okay, you guys are talking about the merits of Sweeney and Dunst. Okay. The donuts. Yeah. Hansi. Oh, here we go. Here's one right from Lemon Pie. Says Hansi becoming Moses Tripoli felt tacked on, didn't feel organic, but I still re-enjoyed season 2. Yeah, I agree with you that the Moses Tripoli thing did feel tacked on. It's almost like, well, we are not going to be able to finish Hansi's story, so rather than do what they probably should have done, which is just leave it ambiguous for the time being, to bring him back in another season for whenever they wanted to tell another story, it's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we say he dominated everything and took over Fargo? It's like, yeah, that's great, but doing that means he got killed off screen and rather unmiraculously. So, it's kind of like a double-edged sword there. But yes, I agree with that, Lemon Pie, wholeheartedly. Lemon Pie says, also enjoyed the Agree shampoo product endorsement. Yes.
I did see something earlier that I wanted to highlight.
There was a really funny one that Lemon Pie said, I got to show you again. He said, Hansi is actually just trying to collect the seminar fees.
We got to get to the seminar, don't you know?
I mentioned that now that he brought that up, it's like, yeah, the seminar obviously was somewhere in Sioux Falls, because Constance was at a different motel than the one where the massacre happened. And I was thinking that the seminar was going to show up at some point in the finale, or like it was going to spill over. Like maybe Ed and Peggy, instead of running towards the supermarket, would burst into the building where the seminar was being hosted or something like that.
You know what? And I think that I appreciated when her bubble was burst and she was in the back seat of the Prowler. And people are dead, Peggy.
Lemon Pie says season 2 was meat and potatoes, Fargo, and that's a good thing. And
oh yeah, aren't we? We're doing. Wait. Okay, so before we do our rating, I do want to.
Well, there's an interesting thing in Japan, the chat, which you might be upset by. Captain Notfinity and Eugene Bird are going back and forth on the merits of Kirsten Dunst versus Sydney Sweeney, and Captain Affinity says, Dunst, and you turn your nose up at Sweeney.
This is, you know what?
Insane.
No, I've been, but the thing is, this is very strange and it's not very complimentary.
Correct.
But I've enjoyed Kirsten Dunst. I enjoy her form. And when I've swooned for her Mary Jane, I've had friends of mine say she looks like a special needs girl. And I've been like, really? I don't think she looks like a special needs girl. However, the reason I bring it up is that when I see Sydney Sweeney, I look at her and, my friends, they swoon over Sydney Sweeney. And I'm like, she's a special needs girl. Like, guys. And they're like, I don't think she looks like and thus the exotic tennis continues.
Okay, I admit I'm a bit lost on all that, but whatever. I just thought it was
what?
funny.
No, that made perfect sense.
Okay,
some people think. Never mind. I'm not going to explain it again.
So now we're going to get into our rankings for all 6 Fargo stories that have been told so far.
Yes.
Let's go back and forth. We'll go back and forth between each of our ranks. So, Scott, what comes in 6th place, bottom of the ladder?
Bottom of the ladder?
Or bottom of the barrel, or whatever you want to call it.
Oh.
Or no, they're all good. I don't think bottom of the barrel, that's a bit mean.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the thing is that we have an embarrassment of riches.
Right.
It's like even the worst one is a highly recommended television season.
Yes.
But the you know what? I'm gonna go with season 3.
Okay.
I do appreciate it, but some of it just got a little gross. Like, I didn't like David Thewlis is an incredible actor. I enjoyed Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I, of course, enjoyed two Ewan McGregors, but season 3 was probably the one that kept me the least on the edge of my seat.
For me, it would be season 4 because certain characters fell by the wayside, but not in an organic type of way, like we just talked about, where I talked about, Bear, or like how Floyd sort of falls by the wayside, doesn't get to do much, but it still felt organic to the story they were telling. Like season 4, it's like it felt like they were really setting up Ethelreda to be a major character because she's a lot more intelligent than people give her credit for. She notices a lot of what's going on, and yet she falls by the wayside very quickly. And it's like, what happened there? They were setting up the metaphor that Oretta May is kind of the real villain, if you will, of between all these minority families fighting each other, and that she's the real bad guy, and that doesn't really amount to anything. I didn't buy the ending, the way she doesn't try and connive her way out of it. She just kind of goes along with it when they're about to die. And again, I thought the ensemble was huge and didn't really do much for me. I thought the Timothy Olyphant character, who I really liked, didn't really amount to much either. I was not satisfied with Zelmare showing up and killing Boy Cannon at the end, even though they obviously foreshadowed that she would want to seek revenge. It just felt kind of tacky with the whole Godfather tribute where he's holding the orange. It's like, okay, it's a crime saga, but when comparing it to season 2, which was another crime war saga, it just didn't do it for me. So I got to put that one at the bottom in 6th place.
And at 5th place, I'm gonna put season 5.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
And
that's a big statement for you, given how much you love John Hamm.
The entire reason we did this entire show is because John Hamm was going to be on Fargo, and I love it. I think it's great. Again, none of these are detriments, but no, it got a little goofy, and I love the characters, but it was just sort of action and melodrama. But I still, again, I would recommend it if they're when they finish Fargo. I'm gonna get the Blu-ray box set.
I hope there is one. They still haven't put out Blu-rays of seasons 3, 4, and 5.
You don't buy anything unless it's a steelbook.
That is not true. I have. That is a lie, because you know what I'm about to hold up for you here.
Not a steelbook.
No, but I've got them both. Fargo season 1,
nice.
Fargo season 2.
That's great.
Yes, it is.
Okay, don't be so.
I wanted to get the rest of them, but they didn't get released. So for me in 5th place, it's the movie.
Oh my!
Because the thing, I liked the culture, I liked the characters, but because it's a short hour 45-minute thing, it's very plot driven, kind of paint by numbers. It was kind of like ho hum. I never felt like I was getting reeled in or engaged the way I am with the show. It wasn't edge of my seat. I wasn't feeling any suspense or real tension. I didn't understand why people made a big deal of the fact when the movie came out that, oh, Marge doesn't get the bad guy. It's like, well, he wasn't really her adversary until right before the climax. So she kind of gets the real bad guy with Geir Grimsrud. And maybe it's a symptom of me building this up in my head from hearing adults talking about it forever to when I finally saw the movie. I didn't think, everybody talks about the wood chipper scene and all this stuff. I'm like, okay. But then again, I read the Hannibal Lecter trilogy in 6th grade, so I guess it wouldn't really faze me by the time I finally saw Fargo when I was like 18 or something.
Oh, fine. You saw Hannibal in kindergarten. Good for you.
But no, I mean, like reading the carnage. So it's like kind of like when I just saw In a Violent Nature the other day, and everybody's talking about how it's really gory, and it is, but it just kind of left me numb. It's like, it doesn't really do much for me. But the movie, I really love the Steve Buscemi character. And I like the William H. Macy character. I would have liked to see them in like that story told over more episodes rather than just an hour 40 minutes. So that's why it gets 5th place. It just never got me going. It didn't really feel engaged with it. It's like, okay, it's a movie. I wouldn't really have given it a Best Picture win for sure, or Best Director. It's like that was a surprise for me when I found that. And it's like, yeah. Better than season 4 though, because I handled the characters much better, I thought.
Well, and in fourth place, I'm gonna plug in season 4.
Okay.
I do very much appreciate Jason Schwartzman, the guy who got slapped by Will Smith.
No.
Who? Pootie
Oh,
Tang?
I thought you were saying Jason Schwartzman was the guy who got slapped by Will Smith.
Oh no, that would have been the best. Does anybody slap Will Smith in Fargo season 4?
He's not in Fargo. But Chris Rock is in Fargo.
That's who I'm talking about. Does anybody slap him?
No. I can't remember. No.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch it again and find out.
I think his
That's
wife
why.
His wife did at one point, didn't she?
Who?
His wife?
Yeah, but that doesn't count.
Okay.
Well, unless it was Jada Pinkett Smith.
Hey, move on already.
I don't know. I know. I don't want to make it about that stupid joke.
But you do want to make it about that because you're going down that again.
I know. I think it's funny. Anyway, no, I do. I honestly think that Fargo season 4, I like it better than you do. I really enjoy the character interactions. I enjoy the comeuppances that happen. I don't think that it's a very good Fargo show. Like it doesn't reflect Fargo the way that I wanted, but when I think about that show, like I really want to revisit it and see it again because I love the smoking, I love the suits, I love the bizarre familial politic. And 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians. My stars. No, when I think about that show, that season, it makes me very happy. So I do enjoy Fargo season 4. That's my 4th place.
My 4th place is season 5. I thought the first half of the season was much stronger than the second half.
Agreed.
I thought the second half got into a bit too cartoonish. Yes, I know there's militias and crazy people like that out there, but it just felt a bit tonally different from what we had in the first half of that season. And all the Nightmare Before Christmas allegories kind of fall by the wayside in the second half of the season, which was a bit weird because they were pushing it so hard in the first half of the season. But there were that was and the fact that the primary, it's not so much that one of the antagonists gets away with it being what's her name, God, what's her name, the
Temple.
No,
Nadine?
her character's mother-in-law, Jennifer
Jason Leigh.
Yeah, her character, the fact that they're celebrating her corruption, I didn't really care for because usually Fargo has a pretty good handle on morality, and it's like, oh, it's okay for her to be immoral and all this as long as it's happening to the bad guys, whereas usually Fargo tries to, reward the good, punish the bad, regardless of what side of the political fence they fall on, and I kind of felt that it just kind of, to me, bugged me. I mean, I know the primary antagonist and the secondary antagonist of season 3 both got away with it, sort of. Well, the secondary antagonist of season 3, they left it kind of ambiguous, but the primary antagonist got away with it scot-free. But that they didn't celebrate what she had done in that season. It's just something that happened. Whereas season 5, it kind of, yeah, and so I put that in 4th place.
Hey, Jill. So 3rd place I have to do now? 3rd place. Oh, what did I use up? I used up 3rd season 4.
You used up season 3 was your 6th place pick, your 5th place pick was season 5, and your 4th place pick was season 4.
And so now
you still have seasons 1, 2 in the movie.
I'm gonna go with season 1. Season 1 is the 3rd place. I think that it was fantastic, and I do like it is my favorite. I love a show that it takes me a little while to get into. And Fargo season 1 was a season that I had to like drive into like a snowplow until I finally got it. And yeah, it was an effort to get into it, and I appreciate the fact that I did get into it.
All right. I also picked season 1 for my third place pick.
Oh wow.
Because I didn't like how they started copying the movie a bit too much at the end, and it felt for the sake of just copying the movie. Like, oh, Molly Bick's pregnant, she doesn't catch the bad guy, but as I mentioned before, Jerry Lundegaard wasn't really Marge's adversary in the movie, whereas Lester is very much Molly's adversary in the show, and I thought that was too on the nose, like skipping it. Him falling through the ice was too on the nose for the metaphor. I didn't like that they didn't even acknowledge the fact that whatever happened to Mr. Wrench when Malvo gives him the key to his freedom. And I didn't. Maybe Malvo went back to try and get that $1 million after he wiped out the Fargo crime syndicate. We don't know. The fact that we don't see him again until he's in Kansas City or St. Louis or whatever doing this other scam for, what was it, like 100,000? I think he said that the bounty was worth. And the whole Vegas thing is a little bit there, but it's a very good season. Extremely strong start for a show.
Oh, I love it.
It's still a great season. It's just doesn't reach the heights of my top 2. I think it was very good.
That's the thing, is that when I'm talking about these things, when we're ranking them, it's like I'm apologizing that each one is not higher on my list. Because again, if you want to watch any of these, do it. It's great. You'll have a blast. 2.
Yeah,
season 2.
Okay.
Season 2 is again, it's just there's something that weaves. There are dangling participles that I wish to be resolved, but hopefully they will be. And if they're not, oh well, that's just life. But season 2 with Kirsten Dunst again, yes, hotter than Sydney Sweeney. And Patrick Wilson, also hotter than Sydney Sweeney. And everyone is doing such a blast. This is so. It is. Remember when I was complaining about Fargo season 4, and I was like, "Where's the snow?"
Right. Where's the Fargo? You had to look for the Fargo in season 4.
You had to look for the Fargo, and this one, Fargo's on display. You know what? The thing is that it started with a typewriter guy who got buried alive, and like everything about it's just so. The people that you like, Simone, did she have to die? No. Was it kind of cool when she did?
She had to die. She was betraying the family, and they had to do something about it.
Well, that's right.
Even though Bear is the one who took the initiative without telling anybody else, other than that one henchman. But
and season 2 is season 2 is my number 2. Way to silver medal it.
We, for the second consecutive time, are in agreement. I picked season 2 for my second favorite.
Our number 1's going to differ, though.
I think season 2 is a great season for all the reasons we've been talking about, all the illusions they've been doing, the metaphors, and it's a really great story summing up the whole waiting for Dutch thing. Great story. You guys have been watching these episodes, so I don't need to sum it up again, but that's my favorite, second favorite.
And number 1.
Yeah.
I am, very.
Okay. We know what it is.
The movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie called Fargo. It was directed by the Coen brothers. It had people in it. Started the whole world of Fargo. And I think it is, when I watch it, I can't watch it in the wintertime. It's too cold. If I watch it in the summertime, it's better than air conditioning.
Mm.
Scotty sometimes forgets to unpack his adjectives. Well, that's why I have an assistant. Where did Kat go? I'm here by myself now. So anyway, no, I love Fargo. She's back. I love Fargo the movie. I think it is the storytelling template of the series, obviously. And I think that it set a mood in an almost David Lynchian way. More playful, less ominous, but still violent and wry. And when I say wry, I mean WRY. So yeah, my number one is Fargo, the movie.
My number one is season 3. I think it's the funniest season by far. Michael Stuhlbarg is one of the MVPs. I love the back and forth with him and Ewan McGregor and the dual performance as the Stussy twins. Ewan McGregor, I think that's great. I think that's one of the best twists of the seasons that we've had when they kill Ray Stussy, just like barely past the halfway point. It's like, whoa, what the hell's going to happen now? Varga, my favorite Fargo character. I think he's hilarious and it's devious. Yes, Captain Finity has been asking me be specific about secondary antagonists. V.M. Varga, as played by David Thewlis, is the secondary antagonist of season 3 because the vulture capitalist who put him on this whole mission, Ruby Goldfarb, is the primary antagonist who doesn't have that many scenes. But she gets away scot-free.
Is that Mary McDonnell?
Yes, she gets away scot-free, and Varga's fate is left ambiguous. But we had a great conversation about that finale as well. But I just thought that was a really fun season. I loved Carrie Coon as Gloria Burgle. And that whole detour to Los Angeles was like such a risk and such an odd thing to do. Like for the series, like, wow, you can't get much further removed from Fargo than Los Angeles. And I admit, sunny Los Angeles is even more removed than season 4 was in St. Louis, but it still felt like Fargo, surprisingly, for the LA segment. As you mentioned, season 3 also has that one episode you mentioned was one of the best episodes of television you'd seen in 10 years, Who Rules the Land of Denial, with Yuri, Mimo, and Golem jackknifing the prison bus with Mr. Wrench and Nicky, and how delightful it was that Mr. Wrench came back in a meaningful way. I just loved season 3, and again the other political allusions were there, done in a more tasteful way than season 5. Even though I can see that season 2 is probably the best season in terms of how the character structures and the arcs work, season 3 is still my favorite. I've read that one more often.
Also, when I said that season 3 was like 6th on my list, the only reason I put it there is because I wanted to make you angry and I wanted to put season 4 higher on my list. So
you would actually put it in 5th place then?
I don't know where it is.
All right. But
I love it all. I love it all. What does it matter?
What about you, Lemon Pie? How would you rank them? Remember? Yeah. Are you seeing that in the chat, Sky?
I am. What? Can we? What? Where are we clicking?
I haven't clicked it yet. I'm not sure if I should click it.
What are we clicking? Is it the stupid fucking Blade Runner question?
Yeah.
I don't want to care about that. This is what I want to care about because Eugene Bird has asked us if we like Twin Peaks or Fargo. Now, this is a live question. I haven't discussed this with you. Do you want to watch Twin Peaks next?
Well, I'd prefer if we take a little bit of a break from TV for a little bit.
Okay.
I kind of want to do something that we and our audience kind of have committed to memory for a bit. Like things we're not going to do recaps of, just like general discussion, spoiler discussion, fun stuff for a little bit, maybe. And then we could do Twin Peaks. I'll have to find it, see if I can. I'll find it somewhere.
No, I ordered the Blu-rays.
Well, I'm not just going to buy physical media if I don't know it's any good. Or if it's
No, I
my understanding is that show got prematurely canceled, did it not?
No, it was good for the first season. The second season sucked. Then they made a prequel movie, and this is all David Lynch.
Yeah.
And then they came back and did another series much later, and it had Jim Belushi and Tim Roth. And yeah, no, I'm fascinated by David Lynch no matter what. So
yeah, I like David Lynch, so we can get into that eventually. So here's Lemon Pie's ranking is season 1 is the best, followed by season 2, then the movie in third. We're in agreement, all three of us here, that season 2 is the second best. No, we're not. Season 1's the best. Never mind, he's flipped it around. Movie's in third place. Season 5 is in fourth, followed by season 3 in fifth, and he did not see season 4.
That's because Lemon Pie is a racist and he doesn't like Negroes.
Okay, stop, Scott.
No, Lemon gets it. He's fine. Lemon Pie is not a racist, everyone.
I understand.
I'm sorry, I'm speaking out of turn.
So until they make another season of Fargo, which will probably be a couple years, maybe 3, because it's not really on Holly's priority list. It's kind of like when he has free time, if he thinks of another story, he'll do it. Like season 5 kind of came out of nowhere. It's like, oh, cool, there's another season of Fargo they're announcing. Here we go. Because they do film these like literally in the couple months before it starts airing. Like the turnaround time with the edits are very quick. So
and they film them in Canada. They film them in Alberta. Like
they do.
Yeah.
Scott.
See, Lemon gets it.
Yes, he does. Yeah, so I guess that's our Fargo Odyssey. We started in late October, and now here we are at the beginning of June, and we finally finished the Fargo Odyssey again for the time being.
Yes. Well, and it's the same as our James Bond. It's like, we'll shut up about this until there's new ones.
Yeah.
So, that's it. Anything else you want to say?
No, I don't think so. We pretty much covered it. Great show. My favorite TV series by far. That's still on the air, I should say. Not ever, but
that's on TV, yes.
Yeah. Well, close to being my favorite ever, because I really love, because one of the things I love about this series is that it's an anthology series. So many shows today feel the need to be long form and drag things out over multiple seasons when they don't need to be. Like one of my biggest pet peeves is when you have like 6 or 8 or 10 episodes to tell a story and you end that story on a cliffhanger. It's like, no, you have had an exorbitant amount of time to tell this story. Yes, you could tease where the story might go, but no, you should still have a complete story that is satisfying in its own right for each season of long form television. And I love that Fargo does that, because it's limited series tend to be my favorite because they're not going to do sequels or prequels or anything like that. But anthology series is a close second, and so I love that about this.
Well, in to speak of a different franchise, this was the inception of Star Trek Discovery. It was supposed to be an anthology show. Each season would be different. And unfortunately, they decided not to pursue that model. And here we are talking about Fargo, because who the fuck cares about Star Trek Discovery?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. You're bringing it up, so maybe you do care.
Well, no, I just like throwing rocks at it.
Yeah. That's not worthy enough to even be brought up in the same breath as Fargo.
All right. That's true.
It is.
Anyway, now that I've had my tantrum and I've pooped my pants.
Well, we can thank the chat.
Well, thanks, chat.
Yeah, Lemon Pie, Captain Notfinity, Eugene Bird, thank you very much. DJ Play Nice, Anti-Derivative Jill, stop by, that's great. Yeah, so it's a smaller crowd tonight, but yeah, it's great.
Eugene Bird.
Oh, that's right. I got kicked out of the chat or out of the show briefly, so I can't scroll back up to see all the other people who were there. I hope I didn't miss anybody.
You missed 7 people. There was Cinema Gulp. You missed.
Oh, that's right, Cinema Gulp. I forgot. I even put some of his comments up there. That's right. Cinema Gulp was here.
Matt G was here. Matt G had.
That's right, Matt G. Thank you, Matt G.
Thank you so much. Oh, the Edge of Time. Hail,
Edge of Time. That's right. Edge of Time is here. That's right.
So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
We good?
Ah, you betcha. Yeah.